Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. September was a terrible month when it comes to my reading. Also, like just in general, September was a lot. I went back to work. I'm a teacher, so just transitioning back from the summer was fun. We'll just leave it at that. I started up my own classes again, so I'm in my master's, and so I found that a lot of my downtime and my opportunity to read ended up being reading things that I wouldn't normally pick up. So articles, textbooks, my own writing, which, when you're not writing like fiction, reading your own writing is a chore, at least in my personal experience. All that to say, I did absolutely terrible when it comes to reading the books that I set out on my TBR for the month of September. If you missed that video, I had started a TBR jar mug and was choosing prompts. And I actually started out with the intent of reading 5 or 6, and I only read one of those books that matched a prompt. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and put them back in here, and I will choose my October TBR at a later time. But I do want to just kind of like go through the books I read and how I felt about them. Because while, yes, I only read one off of the prompt TBR, I had set an intention to read an MM romance that my Instagram followers voted on, and then 2 arcs, which I did accomplish. And so then my leftover time went to my TBR picks, and I did get to one of those. And overall, it was an enjoyable reading month for me. I think there was only one that I was like maybe on the fence about, but let's dive right in. So the very first book that I read is Ripe and Ready by Elliot Kyle. This was just a novella, so it was quick. I read it in one sitting, but it was really funny. And yes, this this cover would lead you to believe that it is much more inappropriate. It is spicy, so like as a fair warning, but one of the things that I really liked about it was that like it was very humorous. So this book is part of a series called Friction Fiction, where the lubricant is generally something that is unconventional. And in this one, it was a smashed banana. Yeah, that was an interesting. That was interesting. But I thought it was funny. I thought that there was a lot of humor tied into like the romance aspect of it. And I think that like going into a book where this is like the main premise, you have to kind of walk into it with like an open mind and realize that like the book itself doesn't take itself that seriously. I mean, it's called Ripe and Ready, and it's about a banana. It's not about a banana, but the banana is an integral part of the plot. Anyway, it was enjoyable. It was like a fun novella read, one sitting, and I definitely want to check out the other books in this series, though I am scared. The lubricant only gets worse, in my opinion. Oh my gosh. Completely different vibes. The second book I read was You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. And my first read of this author was Compound Fracture, which is a YA horror novel. And this one is the author's first adult debut. So if you've ever read anything by this author, he definitely leans into like the gore aspect and didn't skimp on elevating it in this book. So the premise for this book is the main character is a trans autistic man. His name is Crane, and he belongs to this like, it's not an organization, but it's almost like a cult following for like these hive mind bug alien entities across the United States, and they're like hidden and not well known. So like the humans kind of like do their bidding. And what ends up happening is that Crane gets pregnant, and then the hive mind forces him to keep it, even though he doesn't want to. And that's all I'll say about the plot, because, you know, things escalate from there. But one of the things I love about Andrew Joseph White and his writing is that every character, at least out of the 2 books that I've read that he writes, he puts so much of his own experiences into, and it's like a fully realized person. And there's such a connection, and you can see it in the writing, and it's just really great to see. Now, this book is not for like the faint of heart, and I definitely, please, if you're even considering reading it, then please check the content warnings. But I've heard from a couple people that the audio is worse than the actual book. I read this one, I didn't listen to it, but the audio is very unsettling. So if you had a choice and you were maybe on the fence, I would maybe go with the book over the audio. But I loved this book. I love this author's work. So much so that after I read this one, I went ahead and bought another one of his YA books, The Spirit Bears Its Teeth, which I'm hoping to maybe get to in the fall or this October. So we'll see. The third book I read was Moonflow by Bitter Karella. So just this was one of the arcs I had to read, and so was You Weren't Meant to Be Human. But this book was funny because like I picked this book off NetGalley thinking that like it would get me in the mood for October and Halloween, and I read this one immediately after You Weren't Meant to Be Human, and there were a lot of similarities, like as far as like themes present and like content warnings. Oh gosh, this book was a lot to deal with. This followed a trans woman, and she is tasked to make money. She grows psychedelic mushrooms and then sells them. And she is tasked to find this one specific mushroom called the King's Breakfast. And it exists in like the deep parts of this forest that nobody really goes to because there are rumors about what happens in there. Anyway, when she gets there, she encounters like a feminist all-woman cult. And so her and her tour guide sort of like have to navigate that situation. But this is the thing. This was like, I enjoyed the book, but for the most part, this was probably my lowest ranked out of the whole month. There's a lot of play with like taking mushrooms and is this real? Is what the character's experiencing real, or is it all in their head? And I can honestly tell you that at the end of the book, I am not sure what really happened and what didn't. And maybe that's the point. Maybe that is the point of the book. And you know what? Well done, because you got me. But it was a wild ride. It's trippy. There is gore in it. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, but I do like queer horror, and the last 2 books were great examples of queer horror. But please check the content warnings. Okay, the next 2 are actually 2 that I had like purposefully set out to read. The next one is To Catch a Firefly by Emmy Sanders. And when I tell you that this book is so good, it is amazing. It is beautiful. It is, please. If you don't read any other book I talk about in this video, read this book. It is breathtakingly beautiful, is I think what I said in my initial review. And it just... It follows Ellis and Lucky, who are friends, and Ellis is a beautiful, beautiful human being, and I love him so much, but he has trouble speaking. He's very like almost nonverbal, very I wouldn't say selective mute, because I think sometimes it's just hard for him to speak and get his words like formed, but he is on the autism spectrum, and Lucky and him are best friends from a young age, and as they grow up, they sort of, I mean, it's a friends to lovers book. Um, I'm just sorry. I'm just thinking about it, and it's making my like heart. Oh, my heart. It's just so good. I don't usually like friends to lovers. It's not a trope that I would pick up right away, but I cannot tell you how much this book is amazing. So, if you're trying to dip into romance, well, I wouldn't want you to start here, because then it would be hard to follow it up, but I think that everybody should read this book because it's amazing. Last but not least, because I actually really like this book too, this is All That's Left in the World by Erik J. Brown. And yes, this is the UK cover, because I think the United States editions are terrible in comparison. This book follows two boys who have to navigate a world that's been ravaged by a disease that's killed like 99% of the population. The thing I loved about this book, and I haven't done like a full review for it yet. I like to let it sit and marinate before I like do those singular reviews. This book does such a great job of like navigating young feelings when you don't really know what you feel or how you feel, and trying to process that with someone else. So you have like this sub plot line, this romance plot line. And I like that it like kind of parallels the action adventure of the book in a way that doesn't like overshadow one over the other. It's blended very well. And so I really appreciated that. This is actually a duology, and I might pause before I read the second one. I tend to like to do that just to kind of like build up the anticipation for the second book. But I do own the second one, and I will probably have to add that to my TBR soon. And that's it. That is all I read last month, which I know 5 books is a lot, and I should be proud of that. But usually, like, I think I lost some of my steam from the summer, naturally, because of all the changes in my life. And then at the same time, my husband and I are getting approved to adopt through the state, so it's just like a lot going on. But it's all good stuff. Like, work is great. I love working with my kids. Going back to school is great because I'm learning so that I can teach better, and getting licensed to adopt is also great. So all great things. Knock on wood. Floor's wood. I'm allowed to knock on that. But yeah, that was my September. Fingers crossed that October is much more productive, much more aligned to like the TBR prompts I choose. And yeah, I hope it's good. And I hope you all had a wonderful September, and happy reading.